Hello. I guess I don't need this. I'm Bill Warren, and I will be introducing the candidates tonight. And I need a little tiny bit of housekeeping before we start. Is Jason here? Archambault? Archambault, okay, thank you. Tina Stearns? Ainsley Klossner? Paul Bianco? Okay. Did I pronounce that properly? Good. The mic?
How's that around the room?
I can lean in. And Jane Rippey? Jane, no? Each candidate will get 4 minutes for presentation. Tell us about yourself, your reasons for running, your goals if elected. Then you'll have 4 minutes for questions. And we're going to keep a strict watch on the time so that we don't spend all night here and give everybody a chance to speak. Once everyone speaks, then we'll have an open question and answer period where anyone can direct a question to anyone that they want. There are no contested races for the school, so apparently there's no one here running for a school office tonight, so they won't be speaking. So with that, we'll get started. Mike Dean, you're up.
Oh, I was wondering where the camera was. Okay, Susan, can you hear me? All right, that's my litmus test. I'm Mike Dean. For those of you who don't know me, which is, I think I know everyone here, except for 2 or 3 people. My wife and I moved here in 1999, about 27 years ago, and we started our family here. And we've lived in the same house ever since. Over that time, we've added on to it and repaired it ourselves. And we try to live a way that we think a lot of people do here, frugally, repairing instead of replacing or buying new. We buy used as well. We're careful with money. We fix things when we can. The town is home for us and we expect it to stay that way. I've been involved with town government for about 15 years. I was on budget committee for 9 years, I think, and ZBA, and ZBA for 13 years, a lot of that time as the chair. I've been out of town government for the last year, taking a break. It's been lovely, and I'd like to come back in. So one of my goals has always been to be on the select board. I didn't realize I would be running against Tracy and John, and I don't want to replace either of them. So if that's the situation we're in, I'd be happy to have all of you vote for one of them instead of for me. But I'll just tell you a little bit more about myself. I'm a Navy veteran. I served 5 years, including the first Gulf War, and seeing on the news that Iran is attacking ships in the Straits of Hormuz now is surreal for me because we lived that. We transited those straits when they were attacking the U.S. flag tankers back in the late 80s and protected those tankers. So that was a very real moment yesterday when I saw that. My wife and I raised our 3 sons here in Enfield. They started at Enfield Village School. They went all the way up through the high school. I got one of them graduated with a degree in economics from college and came back and is teaching now. He's the personal finance teacher at the high school. My second son is in the Navy. He just got orders to a carrier down in Norfolk. And my third son is he throws heavy stuff, is what I was told to say. He is a track and field star. He sets a lot of records throwing discus and shot put. And we're very proud of him. It's very strange for us because neither of us are athletic in the least. He is. So professionally, I work in technology infrastructure. And from that, what I learn is, or what I bring to town government and to pretty much everything is the way I approach problems. I try to listen carefully. I restate what I've heard. I research the issues. I try to understand the facts behind the opinions. I try to make sure that everybody involved, all the stakeholders, have a chance to be heard, and if they hear each other. I spend time researching the background of the problems. Like on ZBA, I was always looking into the law, looking to figure out what were the governing bodies, who's responsible in a particular area. What was the case law? So we would look to see how did the courts interpret this section of the law in these situations. In select board work, I would expect that we would spend time looking at how other towns in and around our area and in the greater New England area have solved similar problems. And I would expect we would go to the regional planning groups and ask them as well. I spent a lot of time looking through the minutes for the last year and skimming some of the stuff from before that. And all I can say is I've got no problem at all with the way the select board has been handling our business. I think they've done a great job. And if it didn't mean having to replace somebody, I would love to be on that team. I would love to participate to help guide the town forward. I think we have some thorny issues to navigate. I think the current select board has set us up to navigate them very smoothly and very well. But I'd like to be part of guiding us through any of the rough spots and helping communicate with the.
Time for questions.
Time for questions?
Time for questions.
All right, thank you. Questions? I'm okay with none. Any from online?
Yeah.
All right, great.
Give us a minute.
Yeah, they three of that.
That screen can see, they see exactly what's on.
So I see about that much space above my head when I look at this.
We don't see your face comments.
We don't see anything.
You don't see the face, yeah. There's a text box. Yeah. So you'll be seeing what, it's a text to us for questions.
Jason, you're next. Jason Archambault.
Hello, for those who don't know me, I'm Jason Archambault. My wife and I moved to town in 2020, originally from White River Junction, born and raised there. And then I'm also a veteran. I served for 6 years in the Army at that time, working on Chinook helicopters in aviation. When I got out, ended up moving to Heartland, raised a family there. And what brought us to Heartland was that the town had school choice, and we liked that idea. Our kids got to choose sort of whatever high school they wanted because our town only had K through 8. My first two kids chose Hartford, and when it was time for our third kid to choose, he chose to come to Mascoma, which was our opportunity to move to the community. So we jumped right on it. He's a graduated now. He's happy, and it was a great experience. We loved being able to come back, and it was a good catalyst for us to join the community. In my private life, I own Granite Air Center, which is the aviation company in Lebanon at the airport. So I'm used to working with city government. I am their tenant, so I work with them all the time on a lot of different projects and a lot of different capacities. So I don't have a ton of experience working with the town government, other than I've done some committee work. I worked on the school budget committee in Heartland for a number of years. I've worked on a committee here in town, Methodist Hill Property Committee, last year when we were looking for a way to use that piece of property. And then I'm active in the community. We take part in a lot of different things in the community. For the last 5 years in particular, I've been coaching volleyball at the middle school. So that has been a lot of fun, a lot of good times there. I have an MBA in leadership, and I think between that and running my own business, I'm very well versed in dealing with regulations and how things are done at the federal level, the state level, and the local level, and how to get those things done. One of my goals, I like to echo what Mike said. I think in general, the select board has done an excellent job. We seem to have a lot of things that we get done in this town and they get done pretty well. I personally feel there's a little bit of a lack of transparency from time to time. It's fairly consistent. It's not something that I think is done intentionally, but I think there are a lot of opportunities where the citizens of the town are not as informed as they could be before making a decision. One of those things, just as a quick example, is the project we've got coming up that's on the ballot for the walking trail on 4A. That's a big project that has a lot of wants in it, which is great. It has a lot of grant funding, which is also great. And packed into that are some smaller projects that I think are needs that we need to have. But it's not being broken out in a way where the town gets to decide, do we want the needs and not the wants? Or do we only want all of it or none of it? You know, that's what we're being presented with. And that sort of approach seems to happen a lot. I'd like to be on the select board because I'd like to be a voice that tries to bring some of those points up to help our town have a little bit better understanding of what they're voting for when things come up on the ballot. Well, that's really kind of all I have. So I'll take any questions that you guys have. I don't see any questions.
You do have.
Oh, we do.
This one?
Yeah. Start with that. Two.
Okay. What opportunities do you see to improve transparency as an SB member?
Like I said, I think there are opportunities to present things in a way that are a little bit broken down more for people to understand. So again, using this project on 4A, I tend to think that the two crosswalks that are being put into that project are really important. We need to fix the crosswalk down by the Shaker Museum and especially the one by the bridge. There are close calls there every year. The space is very tight. There are people actually hit there. We've had people killed at those crossings. And I think that's really important. I would be all over voting for improving those today. The problem is, as a town, we don't know what it would cost to just do that part of the project. It's built into the overall project, which we're being asked to spend $500,000 on, and that's fine. But could we be doing those crosswalks for 100,000 or 200,000? We don't really know the answer to that. It sounds like we could based on information we received during the deliberative session, but we just don't know. So right now, we don't have that information. I think that could have been presented as two separate warrant articles so that the town could decide to vote on the needs that we have and vote on the wants separately. That way we could really understand what people want from their government.
Where do you stand on the new zoning proposals?
I knew that would come up. I don't know why I'm forgetting it, but that's fine. I actually, I'm in support of the new zoning proposals and I think it makes a lot of sense. We have a housing crisis across the Upper Valley. It's not just Enfield, it's everywhere. The numbers are quite staggering and we need to do something about it. This is one way we can do it. The primary concerns that people have, and I have as well, is going to be water infrastructure more than anything. And the nice thing about the zoning proposals is it allows for additional dwelling units, but it doesn't allow for them without approval from the planning board. So the water infrastructure has to be assessed each time that a proposal is put in place. If somebody wants to add 3 apartments to their home, they're going to be able to do it in that zoning, in that area, but only if they can get approval from the planning board, which is going to require a review of their usage of water and sewer. And I think that puts some really important guardrails on what is trying to be done. There are plenty of people that will do nothing in those zones. Their homes will stay exactly the same. But there are people that will add, in-law suites or maybe turn a home into 3 different apartments. There are opportunities in that area that could help alleviate some of the housing situation. And as long as we're making sure that the water and sewer infrastructure is taken care of, I think that makes a lot of sense. I'm all about freedom. I think that's pretty important. And part of that is giving people the freedom to do with their land and their property what they want to do with it, provided it's not a huge detriment to the surrounding community. I think we all live together in the same space, so we need to be respectful of each other and do things right.
Oh, okay. I guess you got time still. If anyone has any questions?
I don't know. Nothing else. All right, well, thank you very much for your time.
Save it for the end. I forgot to mention, in the beginning on this, these are the candidates running for selectmen, and it's for a 3-year term, and you select 2. The next one is going to be from Kyle Hasterbaca, and he sent in a letter, and I'm going to try to read it for you. He's unable to be here. Good evening. Kyle isn't able to be here tonight and asked that I share a few words on his behalf. My partner and I chose Enfield very intentionally. This is where we are putting down our roots and building our future. We care deeply about this community, its small town character, its natural beauty, and the people who make Enfield what it is. I decided to run for select board because I care deeply about where Enfield is headed. This is our home, and I want to help guide the town forward in a thoughtful and responsible way. I've established my career here in New Hampshire, and I've chosen to make my life here as well. I earned both my undergraduate and graduate degrees through the New Hampshire University system. Since completing my education, I have continued working professionally in this state. New Hampshire is not just where I studied, it's where I have committed my career, and Enfield is where I plan to stay. Throughout my work, I have focused on helping people navigate complex situations, bring different perspectives together, and make thoughtful decisions. I spend much of my time listening intently, asking questions, and helping groups move forward in a way that is balanced and grounded. I believe in preparation, in understanding the facts before forming conclusions, and creating space for respectful disagreement. That also means being open to learning, staying curious, and being willing to change course if new information warrants it. I am not someone who rushes decisions. I value steady progress over quick wins, and I try to approach challenges with patience and a long-term view. That is the mindset I would bring to the select board. Enfield is at an important moment. We are seeing new businesses come to town, and I am encouraged by that energy. A vibrant downtown strengthens our community and enhances the quality of life that so many of us value. At the same time, I understand the concerns about growing too much too quickly. I support growth, but it needs to be intentional and purposeful. It should reflect both our capacity and our values, and it should preserve the close-knit charm that makes Enfield special. As we look ahead, I believe decisions should be deliberate and well-grounded. We should take the time to understand the facts, seek out credible expertise, and listen carefully to professionals. Their guidance should inform our path forward. Leadership also means balancing expert insight with community priorities and long-term thinking. Growth and change are not inherently good or bad. What matters is how we approach them and whether we are planning responsibly for the future. When it comes to spending and prioritization, I believe we need to distinguish clearly between what's essential and what's optional. With the high cost of living and inflation affecting many families, we must be mindful of what we ask taxpayers to support. Responsible stewardship means careful consideration and keeping sustainability at the center of our decisions. If elected, I will approach my decisions by asking a few simple questions. How does it benefit the community? Is the infrastructure ready? Is this financially responsible? Is it fair to taxpayers? And are we being transparent about the trade-offs? I care deeply about Enfield because this is our home. I am committed to helping ensure our future is vibrant, responsible, and aligned with the values that have made this town special for so long. I would be honored to earn your support. Thank you. Kyle Hasterbaca. We had a couple other people show up. Is Tina or Jane? Oh, okay. Next we have Tracy Young.
I'm Tracy Young. I'm an incumbent on the select board at this time, running for my second term on the select board. And I'll admit to a few things that I'm responsible for that are my fault. Exactly. A few years ago, I took up a petition to expand the select board from 3 to 5 members. That's my fault. I didn't intend to be one. I've also sat on the committee for planning municipal facilities. I sat on that committee for 5 years. So we looked at all the municipal facilities. We tried to determine what the town needed. And we made recommendations and hired architects for the firm, for the projects. We have a terrific safety building. We have a magnificent library and a renovated Whitney Hall. I don't mean to take responsibility, but you can blame me that they cost money. I'm sorry. I'm very much in favor of the septic ordinance that we proposed and passed for this town. We do not own the lakes. They're not our property. They're all of our property. I feel it's crucial to protect our resources. And so I proposed and support that ordinance wholeheartedly. And I know it's caused difficulty for some people. I live on the lake, so I pay my share, but it's so important and it's vital to this community. I've also sat for a number of years on the Capital Improvement Committee. So as we look at capital improvements for the town, anything over $10,000 comes across our purview. And the committee works very hard and very stridently to really determine from each department what is absolutely necessary to move the town forward. Fire trucks, police cars, dump trucks to maintain services for this town. We're very conservative about what we allow. We turn things down. We push them off into the future. We make sure things have been properly planned, but they are necessary to maintain the services of our town. And I've served for the last year as the chairman of that committee. I also serve on the Energy Committee. We've tried to promote solar exemptions for the town, letting people know that there is an exemption on their property taxes for solar installations in this town, trying to encourage anyone that has it to apply to the town and get that exemption. We've opposed that option with the state to try to eliminate that exemption. We contacted the state and we're very strident in our opposition to what they tried to do, and we remain that way. It's an exemption which has existed in this town for over 25 years, and it's our choice that it not go away. I was elected originally to the Budget Committee, and I served with the Budget Committee for a while, but when I became a selectman, the state law prohibits me from serving as a member of that committee, so I am the alternate to the Budget Committee. I go to all the meetings because if I'm going to pass the budget as a select person, I need to know it as well as they do. And last, but lightly, I set up the voting booths. We've owned our home on Mascoma for almost 40 years. I built a new home there about 15 years ago that we moved to full-time from Hanover when we became marginally empty nesters. So it's vital for us that we maintain the proper resources in this town. I happen to favor things like growth in this town. I know that Laramie Farms has been an issue for many people, but I've carefully examined the pro forma that the town prepared, and I believe the tax money which will come in from that development, which is going to take 5 to 7 years to develop, by the way, once they satisfy all the needs for infrastructure, and they will pay for the water, believe me, then I believe the money that we will get from revenue from that project will be of great benefit to this town with minimal expense. We don't even have to own the roads. They have to do all of it.
Time for questions.
Any questions? Well, I'm sorry to make you all quiet. It's Tim. I happen to believe very strongly in the proposed zoning because not only the lack of housing, but I also look forward to the potential of some revenue from the property taxes. We're not going to be a commercially developed town. In order to keep the revenue sources coming in and keep our property taxes under control, we need the revenue from new housing. And so that's why I also support our trying to disposal of Shed Street, trying to get rid of the old fire station, also getting rid of the building at Depot Street. Eventually, those things will be sold. We will get revenue from them. And I happen to favor the new zoning proposals for the same reason. I'm sorry to make everybody so quiet.
There's a question.
Oh,
Can you explain how we will get revenue?
In response to selling the building, the question came up.
oh, with regard to selling the buildings.
The question came the same time we were talking about the, I believe that.
Okay. Well, of course, if we can sell Shed Street to a developer and we have a contract with him, but we have a few contamination issues on that site, but they're under control. We're working with the state at this point. We're all set from our end. In all likelihood, we'll wind up adding some additional monitoring wells there. It's a very interesting issue there where the original storage of calcium chloride resulted in pushing a little arsenic up through the ground. But of course, none of that area is on town water. None of it is on town sewer. And so these things don't affect the development of that site. But we'll get revenue both in the sale of that property as well as the development of that property for apartment houses. Similar, Depot Street will get revenue from there once the proposed owner works out the situation with the state who actually owns the land, although the town owns the building. And then a similar situation on the old fire station. A little problem there, but we'll get that straightened out, and we have someone who's proposed a nice project for that as well. So we'll have money there, both the sale of the facility as well as the property taxes. Yes.
We put a sewer line out for parking development. And created the Memphis 30. But I think the commercial development has not really acted as we were told, or thought.
No, you're right, of course.
Explain that, why that is just.
I can't completely explain it because, of course, putting it in precedes me a little bit. However, the fact that it is in has resulted in some development. We have the car wash out there. It was fortunate that it was there, which allowed us to think about where else we could put the police safety building. We've seen some further development out there, some interest in the properties. We're actually looking at other possibilities of expanding the use of that land because it's considered part of a flood zone. And that has been an issue in the past. We're hoping that with engineering that is presently underway to clear up a problem that will allow future development of some of the land. For example, if those of you who have been around remember Raphael Scacina, that property.
There is another online. Can you bring them down? I'll let you decide what to say about this question.
Okay.
The person who asked about the revenue said, I meant new revenue from large housing projects like Laramie. Rental ? Taxing the residents or the developers?
I'm confused, taxing residents or developers.
That's the question.
The Laramie project includes both condominiums and rental units. So obviously there'll be a large amount of revenue brought in through the development of that, through the full development of that proposal. There'll be approximately, and I may be incorrect on this, and anyone's free to correct me, 80 homes which will become condominiums. There'll be several hundred which will become apartments, and the landlord, of course, will pay significant taxes on all of that. In addition to which, some of the land is going to come back to the town anyway as natural property to be retained for trails. So, you know, I hesitate to use the term, but looking at the pro forma for the property, which lists all the costs involved, as many as we know them, it's a win for the town in terms of revenue production. And frankly, I look forward to the introduction of new and fresh faces in town. A few kids in the school system. I do not want this school threatened by a lack of children. We could accept easily 30 or 40 more children in the school just as it is today. And we need it. I don't want the state to step in and close this school.
Thank you. Next, we have John Klug.
Thank you. It's good to see you all here tonight. I've seen many of you at selectmen meetings. Always one of my favorite things to do is to see who's in the audience. I came to Enfield at the age of 5 when my parents bought the old Dustin Farm on what is now Klug Road. At that time, it was called Dustin Road, and then it was the Jones Hill Extension Road. And eventually the town wanted to create a new map for some celebration. And I thought, well, what could we name it? And then they realized the only people living on that road are the Kluges. So there you go. I have been, I think, devoted to Enfield since that time. I went through grade 8 at the Enfield Village School, went to KUA, went off to college. But whatever I did, I always came back in the summer and worked in the family inn, washing dishes, mowing lawns, eventually doing some of the bookkeeping, a scary thought. I got involved in town governance about 19 years ago. Someone said, hey, why don't you run for the ZBA? That looks like an interesting thing. And I said, yeah, okay. And I did, and I was elected. And then the following year, someone said, you should run for selectman. And I did, and I was elected. And I thought, well, I have some knowledge about property from ZBA. I'll be the selectman's representative to the planning board. There's one poor fellow who got dinged by the planning board, petitioned the ZBA, then came to plead his case to the select board, and he saw me in each one of those. Probably pretty discouraging. Why do I do this? Running for my 16th select board term, being involved in many other different ways with the town. It is, as everyone has said so far, it's a lovely place to live. And we want to keep it that way. Does it mean we want to encase it in cement so nothing ever changes? No. I think one of the things that's happened to us, the Laramie Farms project was a hit sort of psychologically. It was beyond our scale, beyond our human scale knowledge. And I think we'll get used to it. And it doesn't mean we want more of that size. Sometimes we think we're going to create a fundraising project and it doesn't work. Route 4 was like that. I was on the select board and the planning board when that was being developed and studied, and we thought we had it nailed down, that it would look nice. And then what happened? The dollar store appeared. Terrible. It broke every rule. Well, the rule it broke was we said it has to have windows in the front. Well, yeah, there's glass in the front. You can't see through it. So we have to be careful. We have to always think things through fully. I know that there's been a lot of discussion about the trail down Route 4A, which first came to the attention of the select board, I think 10 or 11 years ago, when someone wanted to do it voluntarily and actually began mowing it. It didn't last. It's a nice thought. It is sort of a want. It is not a necessity. And as I said at the deliberative session, we're in a time period right now of stress in many different ways, but certainly financially. And many people want to just slow down a little bit. And that is why, as a selectman and as a member of the budget committee, I voted against that proposal. And it passed the select board 3-2. It failed at the budget committee unanimously. So there are people always watching the numbers, watching the effect what we say and do has upon the individual and the individual's lifestyle, the individual's pocketbook.
Time for questions.
Oh, questions?
Say 16 terms.
16 years. 5-term, well, I'm not a mathematician. I spent 50 years as an English teacher. So I'm running for my 6th term. I finished this, it'll be 18 years.
We have an online. Some properties in Enfield have rules about permeability percentages. Has permeability been considered as part of the proposed new zoning in the Enfield Village?
Frankly, I don't know the answer to that.
Any questions?
Any other questions? Yes.
Thoughts on the proposed zone?
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. I do believe we need more housing. I've seen some at the select board level, some proposals that look very interesting in the downtown zoning area. Nothing definite. Do I want to see? Here's what I don't want to see. I do not wish to see large tracts of land. I have known in 90 acres, right? I am not going to sell 90 acres to a developer and say, okay, cut it into, right now it'd be 3-acre zoning. It probably will be more in the future. That would be terrible. Destruction of wildlife and a ruination of a certain lifestyle. So that is the one positive thing I will say about Laramie Farms tonight. It only damages one piece of land and leaves most of it for public use and nature. But I don't want to see those developments in many other areas. Has to be in the right place. Yes.
I'm a Dorchester resident, but one thing I can tell you, when I was looking for homes, is that trail systems were really important to me. And my family just went on vacation over the winter break, and we went to a place where there were all sorts of great trail systems.
Right.
And it's definitely something that makes people want to go visit the community. The rail trail that goes along the lake is something that brings people into Enfield, but all throughout this area. And obviously in Dorchester, we have this amazing trail system that people come from all over New England.
Absolutely.
Visit, so it's something to consider for like a vibrant community to invest in.
And I'm a big fan of the rail trail. I maintain a couple trails on my own land. And get my tractor out in the summer and actually mow it down. But I will say that the trail along Route 4 is a very, very short trail. It's really just meant to get from the beach to the Shaker Museum. Other questions?
Very good.
I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, that completes the list of those candidates for selectmen. We're now going to be moving on to budget committee. You're going to be selecting 3 members to the Budget Committee for a 3-year term. And first up is Dave Stewart.
Everybody, thanks for coming out tonight and thanks for the folks to put this on. My name is David L. Stewart, not to be confused with David A. Stewart on George Hill. We both live up there, so I don't want him to get blamed for anything I might say or do. So, I moved to Enfield in 1998 from Massachusetts to escape Massachusetts. Selected, my wife and I were selected as delegates to the Libertarian National Convention, and we were all set to do that when we had a sudden change of mind. Said, why don't we just liberate ourselves and go to New Hampshire where people are more apt to be thinking like us? So we found Enfield, and here we are. I've been here since '98. I brought my painting company along with me that I established in 1984, a home painting business. Been very successful here, very happy with it. Very happy with this town. I like the people, and I like the spirit of community here. I was on the budget committee shortly after I got here. I think it was 02 or 03. There was actually a slot open. Nobody was running for it. Back in, it seems like things are a little more competitive these days, but back then nobody was running for it. So I called my friend Paul Mirsky and I asked him about it, and he said that'd be a good place to start. And so I got on, and I was on there for several years and enjoyed it. Had some really good leadership there. Mike Dudley, Lee Carrier, Doug Pettibone, another one, and Sam Eaton, very good leadership. And we always started off with a target, and usually the target was no more than what the rate of inflation was. And we kept a very tight budget. I'm very proud of the work that we did. So that's what I'm all about on the budget committee. I'm about maintaining the town services in the way that we're accustomed to them. We have our roads are in beautiful condition, and thanks to those guys tonight for getting the roads clear so we could all be here. And police and fire, very important. And I know most of those people, or some of them at least now, it's changed. They seem to run a pretty good ship. What else we got? People in the office have always been wonderful. I believe in retaining the employees we have, because once they know what they're doing, they do a great job and they all seem dedicated. Wendy and Elisa, been great. It's gonna be sorry to see Elisa go. Some of the other people have been there before. So I feel real good about that. Where I draw the line is the wants that have been mentioned here. They seem to come up from time to time. And so I want to be on the side of people that say, just hold it here. This is a want, this is not a need. And I think we are. I mean, the economy always goes up and down. And just because it's up doesn't mean you should start spending money. I think it's a time to reflect and just maybe make sure we have enough money for emergencies, anything else that might come up, and just be sitting a little better off financially. You know, the wants are great. The trail along the lake, wonderful idea, but I just don't think it should be done with taxpayer money. I've got some great ideas. I think there should be a tow rope on that next to the La Salette, up that hill for the kids. And the Lions Club could put their food truck out there every weekend. It would be, I bet that parking lot would be packed. I wouldn't want to do it with public money though. See what else. So if elected, I pledge to you that I will watch the budget. I will work with the department heads, which is always a joy, really. I think the department head, that's what I meant to mention. I think the actual people who run these departments seem very dedicated. They don't want to waste money. Sometimes they come up with some ideas that need a little tamping down, but mostly I think the departments will run pretty good, and I enjoy working with them.
Questions.
And I think that is about it. So I appreciate your vote. I promise to work diligently and be at every meeting. If not, if I do not get elected, you can see me down on the lake fishing or in my garden. Thank you.
You want to take any
Oh,
questions?
questions? Yes.
The budget next year that we're voting on is approximately $8.6 million. If elected, what percentage of that would you like to see cut? the 2027.
What percentage of that budget?
I gotta kind of do something here. See if I get this straight. The people online can't hear the questions.
So I guess, this year's budget.
This year's budget's $8.6 million.
What do you think is appropriate budget for 2007?
What's the appropriate budget for 2027?
I'll bet you could cut it by 5% anyway. I think there's always a little bit. I haven't looked at the budget. I don't know, but I could always see whacking it back and let the department heads who are very capable of going, okay, we need to do this, we need to do that. I remember one year to bring our budget into line. Actually, the town manager made a big mistake and he had to go do some math. And so he had to slash stuff. One of the things he slashed was the gravel budget for the town, for the Department of Public Works by $40,000. And the fact is that money could be, it was just a technicality. That money, if we needed that gravel, we would find money in that budget for there. So that goes to, I think it can be cut and department heads can figure out how to get done what needs to get done. But it was made an issue at the town meeting that they're so important. We need this gravel. It's like, well, we'll get the gravel. Don't worry about it. This is trying to keep the budget at a certain target point and working with it. Because there's people out there, I like to represent the people who, they're one pizza a month, that's something's gonna cost. Is there only pizza a month? Or that one cup of coffee a week, that latte is somebody's 2-pound coffee, can of coffee. I mean, it makes a lot of people out of touch with some of the people I think who are the least among us financially.
We have another question, an online question. How do you feel about the drone for the police department?
What for?
The drone.
The grown police department?
The police department wants a drone. How do you feel about them getting?
Oh, the drone. Oh, the drone. Well, who's giving that? I'd like to know who's donating $15,000.
Burns giving a donation.
Oh, Mrs. Burns. Does she live in town?
Now.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I don't think it's needed. It's not gonna, I suppose it's not gonna cost us anything, but I would have some questions about how much training, is it gonna take extra training to do this? What exactly is it gonna be used for? I don't know, kind of on the fence about that one. I would have to ask some questions. I definitely wouldn't put it in the budget. I would not. I would say, chief, take that out. And speaking of the chief, I'm twice now I've been opposed. First time with Chief Crate and the second time with Chief Roy. Where with Crate, there was $5,000 in the budget to do a search for a police chief. Well, Dickie Crate right there is a hometown boy, knows everybody, highly trained. I've had experience with him, very polite, professional. And the same thing with Roy. This time though, they spent $15,000 to look for somebody, and who they end up with? They ended up with Roy. The first time I happened to be on the budget committee and I saw that and I mentioned it to my aforementioned friend Paul Mursky, and he said, I'll take care of it. And he stood up at town meeting when it came time to approve the budget and he pointed it out, this line item, and got a resounding applause. And I don't know what the select board did, but they ended up hiring Dickie. I don't know if they ever spent the $5,000.
Okay, thank you.
No, that's it. Thank you.
So moderator, I think I appreciate the participation. No, I thought you needed to do it.
Next is for budget committee, Jill Banowski.
First of all, I want to say whoever set up the camera to shoot me from below, please. Okay, my name is Jill Banowski. I'm running for Budget Committee. And thank you, everybody who's doing work up here to make this happen. Thanks, everybody, for coming out. My husband and I have lived in Enfield for the past 13 years. We live over on Alfano Drive. And I moved to New Hampshire to take a job at Retail Control Systems And the Shaker Village was founded here in town and was headquartered in town here for many years. It's now moved to Lebanon, but I was their CFO for several years. My career is finance and accounting. I have done budgeting work for when I was a personal financial consultant for people, for small businesses, for medium-sized companies. It's something I'm very familiar with. And I happen to love that kind of work. The other thing that I bring to, and that's why I think I'd be a good asset on the budget committee. The other thing I bring to the budget committee is I sat on the capital improvements committee last fall with Tracy. And I met the town department heads. I learned about what they're thinking for the next year to 5 years, their big projects coming down the line for Enfield. It was a great window into where this town is headed. And the thing about that is, if we can think 5 years ahead, we can be in a better position when we get to the next 5 years. So I'm all about that kind of planning approach. I'm all about getting to know the department heads and what each department head is thinking about for the next 5 years, and bringing that to the budget committee along with my budgeting skills, I think would be a good combination. I tend to be personally and professionally fiscally conservative. It does not mean that I'm going to say no to every project. It does mean, like others who have spoken before me, I want to know about the expenditure in light of everything else that we're doing. I want to suss out all the little ins and outs. Where are the wants and where are the needs? Other people have spoken about that. And I want to know what we really need to do to roll forward in this town. So that's the kind of approach I want to bring to the budget committee. And I think that I would do a good job. And so I'm asking for your vote tonight. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to take those now. Yeah, Dan.
Joe, we can say a question. Sitting here today, in March of 2026, can you project out what percentage of the budget you might like to see cut in 2027?
For the online people, for the question was what percentage would you like to have the budget cut for
2027.
the 2027 budget? Thank you.
Dan, I have no idea. I can tell you cutting is where I'd land, but I don't know how much. We're in a war with Iran right now, and I don't know what's going to happen to energy costs. I don't know what's going to happen to our economy, the world economy. I'd like to cut, but I can't tell you standing here tonight what that's going to look like. But I am a taxpayer in this town, and I know how it hits me when that budget goes up. And I'm not sure of exactly why it's going up. So I want to learn about that, and I want to figure that out. So any other questions? Anything online? Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
There are two other people that are running for the budget committee, and they're not here tonight, Nancy Smith and Tina Stearns. The next is cemetery trustee for 3 years, vote for one, and that person is not here either. That's Ainsley Klossner. And the next office is for library trustee for 3 years, vote for one, And the first person tonight is Janice Beal.
You're standing here. I don't know, I can't reach. Is that okay? Here we are. Well, thank you for coming out on a snowy night and thank you to everyone at home. I am Janet Spiel, 20-year resident of Enfield. Before that, bounced around a bit. I lived in New England, however, for the last can't hear? Okay, I've lived in New England for the last 40 years and I intend to stay. Even though my Florida relatives call me up all the time and go, it's 70 and sunny, but I'm staying here. Okay, of course, I forgot my glasses, so my notes are useless. I have an, mind? I'm so good.
The ladies have to stick together.
Yes, it's just one thing after another. Thank you. You're very. Oh, here we go. I'm losing minutes as we go along. I've got 20 years experience as a librarian. I have a master's degree in library science. I have worked in, you can tell I don't do this all the time. I have worked in college and public libraries. I have experience as a library trustee. And I've also spent 11 years teaching in public schools. So I have some ideas about what goes on. And I am now retired and actually able to do some things other than go to work and do laundry and go back to work. I would like to do something where I have skills and knowledge that is useful. Obviously, if I tried to run for the budget committee, I'd be behind for several years. In this area, though, I do know some things where I can contribute and hit the ground running, I think. Particularly when regard of the relationship between trustees and library staff, which is a very important relationship. We support each other, but we do different things. In my free time, I do several volunteer activities, including I go out to Vince and I feed the big birdies when they're hungry. And the other thing I do is that I am a ballot clerk here for the election, so I'll see you on Tuesday. My priorities are to support our library and our library staff in their wonderful new location. They have done incredible work in the past. What has it been, a year and a half? So it's been sort of a gradual rollout. Yeah, since last February. So, yeah, a little more than a year. They have moved not only once, but twice. And moved into this beautiful new space, gotten everything set up. And they're offering, if you're my age, you remember where libraries, we did two things. You got a book and you got shushed. And those days are over. I walk into the library now and people are laughing and having a good time. There's all kinds of spaces. There's private meeting rooms. There's quiet spaces. There are places for children. There are places for adults. There are all sorts of services, amazing services, not just books, digital online services. You can make an appointment to see the community nurse, which I think is just the most fabulous thing I've heard of in a long time. You can have a no-cost consultation with the community nurse at the library, which is just marvelous. You can go to toddler moving time if you choose. It's a wonderful, warm, welcoming place. And they're just getting started because they've only really moved in. You have two great, well-trained, experienced professional librarians. And the new location is in the heart of the community. Those of you who are concerned about preserving the sense of community and preserving and being careful about the siting of housing versus other things. The library now is in this, in the same building as the town hall, and it has parking. These are good things. And if growth is going to be concentrated in the center of town, I think, it will matter.
Time for questions.
time for questions already, so I'd like to continue to build and expand on that. Technology is not the answer that we once thought it was. But community really is. And that's at the heart of what the library does. Questions? Sir,
Janice, she served the library trustee before.
not here. Where? Kennybunk, Maine.
The question was, has she served as the library trustee here before?
Not here, not here, not here, no. Anything else? Yes, sir.
What's your budget for books?
Can I
Uh,
repeat the question first?
yes, please.
The question is, what's the budget for books?
Okay. Can you help me with that? Can you help me with that?
Well, I think if you have a budget for books.
Personally? I don't buy books, I go to the library.
Yes. What?
Yeah, we still do books, but we do movies, we do magazines, we do digital, we do audiobooks, you know.
Go buy a book. You think about, 20,000, 30,000.
yeah.
I guess that,
Okay, I think if you look at the cost of the library's budget versus the entire town budget, you cannot deny that you're getting good value for your money.
I have a book.
Yeah. Anything else? Hi, Martha.
I don't know that I completely understand this, but I believe that there are some bills in the legislature or perhaps some laws that have been passed that would put constraints on public libraries, protection of young people's privacy.
Please.
Legislation on the books for both nights. Okay. Legislation on the books for controlling books, is that what you're saying? And protecting.
Censorship.
Protecting children's privacy.
Whether the intention is censorship or not, but I think it has to do with parental control of children's, either their children's or all children's ability to use library. Or resources.
And parental control for the books.
Right.
Leave it at that.
Okay, yes, that's true. I would encourage you to visit the library's webpage and look under policies, because Shirley Green and the other people who are working as library trustees and the librarians have crafted a number of policies that tackle these concerns in what I believe is a constructive way and set guidelines that are prepared to deal with these issues if they occur locally, which they may. If they have, up to now, I do not know that. But we all know we live in challenging times. Not just nationally, some of the stuff going on in Concord has serious repercussions for what goes on in the town, not just in the library and everything. We need to be prepared. And one of the things that library trustees need to do is to look forward and anticipate what's coming. And there's plenty of national and state guidance out there on what you need to do to have policies in place should these issues arise. And it's usually based in pretty sound legal advice. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Gentry Campbell.
All right, are the mics good for everyone? Got on mine. Okay. Hello and good evening. My name is Gentry Campbell, and I'm here today to ask for your vote to become an Enfield Public Library trustee. I've lived in Enfield for the past 4 years after moving here in January 2022 to work as a science librarian at Dartmouth. The Enfield Library was one of the first stops my husband and I made when we arrived, and Kate was incredibly welcoming. Since then, we've made excellent use of both the physical and digital library collections. As someone that has worked in public libraries, has a master's degree in library and information science, and is an avid library user, I can confidently say that the skills of our librarians, the volume of community programming, and the quality of our services are impressive for any library, but especially impressive for a town of our size. The Enfield Library is something that we should all be proud of as a place for all Enfield residents to connect to books, media, information, and importantly, each other. Libraries are critical resources in communities, and ours is no exception. In preparing to run for this role, I've attended 10 regularly scheduled trustee meetings since April 2025. By attending these meetings, I'm familiar with the current challenges and opportunities facing our library. Based on this understanding, I see the following as important points of work for the coming year. First, to complete the selection, purchase, and installation of library furniture and equipment based on what librarians believe could better meet the community's needs. Second, to facilitate the cooperative development of a new Enfield Public Library strategic plan with special consideration to community voices. This will ensure that the library has a clear direction to guide programming, fundraising, and more for coming years. Third, to review our library policies to ensure that the library is compliant with any new requirements at the state or federal level. Fourth, to explore additional funding opportunities through grants or fundraising to help fund projects, collections, community outreach, and staff development as prioritized by the librarians. And fifth, to discuss the possibility of appointing alternate members as outlined in RSA 202-A6 and A10. There are additional details that I'm happy to speak to and other ideas that I have, but overall, I see the role of library trustee as one that helps maintain and expand a solid foundation for the library, and I hope to do this by following the recommendations and requests of our librarians, those that are doing the work in our community every single day, in order to keep the Enfield Public Library prosperous. I have the skills and familiarity with our library to be an effective and reliable member of the board. My professional familiarity with the changing landscape of libraries that comes with being a trained librarian is something that I know would be an asset to this community. I believe that the role of libraries in society, especially in bringing people together, is irreplaceable. I would be proud to support the Enfield Public Library as a member of the Board of Trustees, and I humbly ask for your vote on March 10th. As a reminder, my name is Gentry Campbell. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to take questions as the moderator deems appropriate. Thank you.
What do you see as the biggest challenge for the Enfield Public Library today?
What do you see as the biggest challenge for the Enfield Public Library today?
I think with any library, the changing information landscape can be incredibly challenging. Resources are becoming incredibly more expensive. Books, print and digital, are becoming harder to access with the closure of certain publishers that we buy books from at the library. It becomes very challenging to maintain services as intended with all of these other economic pressures that are occurring. And so ensuring that the librarians have the time to do the jobs as they intend and provide the resources that the community would like to have in their library is always priority number one, I think. Yeah.
Same question I asked Janice, your views on existing and possibly pending restrictions on public libraries distribution to young people.
The question is pending legislation for, I'm going to make this up, censorship and, various books in the library.
Yeah, I got it.
Restrictions.
I believe she was speaking about the legislature's HB 273, parental access to minor library records. Basically, what that bill has brought to the library is a challenge in the form of privacy and confidentiality, both which are policies that the trustees have been, making sure are active and in place. But what this bill will allow parents to do is to access their minors' library records all the way up until they're 18, basically eliminating any right to privacy that those children have. This is something that the state has brought down to all libraries all public libraries in the state. It's something that our librarians are very prepared to deal with, but it's a very real challenge that we have to keep in mind because above everything else, librarians believe in the freedom to read, and librarians believe that everyone has the right to their own privacy at all ranges. So we work with the law as it is written, and we also consult with lawyers to make sure that our policies are in line with the law and also in line with the best interest of our patrons. Anything online? All good?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Next is trustee of the trust funds. 3-year term. I didn't write it down properly. Anyway, Paul Bianca.
Thank you, Bill. Appreciate it. Well, I'm probably not a familiar face here. I retired up here from Albuquerque, New Mexico, about 5 years right during COVID. So it was quite an adventure to move cross country at that time. My wife and I moved up here. I have 3 grown daughters. My oldest daughter is an aviation mechanic down in Albuquerque, still with her husband. He's a commercial pilot. My middle daughter is a naval officer. She's stationed in San Diego right now. And of course, we're a little bit on edge about what's going on all over the world right now. And my younger daughter lives with us up on Methodist Hill on Birch Lane, and she works here locally in town. My past experiences, I retired from Sandia Laboratories down in Albuquerque. I know I get a lot of looks from folks like, you moved up here. You've heard it quite a bit this evening. This is a great place to live. And as you can imagine, when you have an engineering background, you look at everything. And this was a place to move to. I've had a great deal of past experience working as secretary and as treasurer for a number of nonprofits, both locally down in Albuquerque as well as nationally. So the financial side of the trustee role, if you will, I'm quite familiar with the terminology. It's a little different. I have not had that much experience with town government, as I've lived primarily in big cities. But I got my start on the planning board. I'm currently a member. I was also involved to a large extent on that Methodist Hill property completion of that issue before the select board. And that's where I really got interested in helping with the town and becoming and providing my expertise and support for the town of Enfield. Trustee is kind of a trustee of the trust funds is kind of a different position. There's not a lot of excitement with it because primarily it's very regulated. So I can guarantee you that your trust fund will never reach the Enron level of scrutiny because there are regulations in place both at the state level as well as at the municipal level that pretty much determine what the trustees can execute in terms of donations or in charitable trusts, for example. So what do we do basically is that we just make sure we follow the rules. And understanding what those rules are, both at the state as well as at the municipal level, to help those folks who want to make charitable donations to the town, how it works in terms of preserving principal, for example, and using income, what we often refer to as dividends, for whatever task they have that they would like to see accomplished by the town. Okay, and so I've been working with the current trustees to understand their roles, understand the terminology that is used in terms of stewardship of those trust funds. And I think I'll take any questions right now. Sure.
As a trustee, would you place more emphasis on earning interest or protecting principal?
As a trustee, would you put more emphasis on protecting interest or principal? Earning interest or protecting principal?
Primary role of the trustee is to preserve principal. Then from that interest, execute it in terms of what the donor, for example, or what the capital reserve folks have in store for that money. But our primary role is to preserve principal so that we can use the income from that principal to achieve the goals of either the donor or the town management. Yes.
And, you're governed by, rules and laws as well, statutes. If you violate those and money is mismanaged, what are the repercussions? Trustees.
As a member of the trustee of the trust funds, you're guided by rules and laws and what happens if you mismanage the funds.
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. What the legal responsibility is it I would just get fired from the trustee, or whether there's some other process. I'm not familiar with it. Maybe folks around here are more familiar with that process. I won't say that. It's not pretty.
It's not. We've done it.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're moving on to the ZBA. It's a 3-year term. We have 4 people running and we select one. One is Kyle Hestabaka, who's not here tonight. And so the next person on is going to be Susan Brown.
Good evening, I'm Susan Brown. I live over on Depot Street. And delighted to see the Depot go where it's going and the Creamery going where it's going. Anyway, I've been on the zoning board for 6 years. Before that, I was an alternate. There's a really long learning curve. The role of the planning and zoning boards in our town is critical. They both protect and encourage us. The zoning board is a judicial body. That means that we have to know the law thoroughly, apply the regulations very, very carefully, and sometimes get taken to court, like we did, didn't we, Mike? By people who don't like our decisions. When that happened a couple of years ago, we'd done our job and the court upheld us. There are 5 things we must deal with when asked for a variance, and I thought people might like to know what that is. Number 1, the variance will not be contrary to the public interest. Number 2, the spirit of the ordinance is observed. Number 3, substantial justice is done. Number 4, the values of surrounding properties are not diminished. And number 5, literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance would result in an unnecessary hardship. Enfield is unique in many ways. Our economic engine is recreational. We have 5 lakes, mostly surrounded with second homes. The rail trail goes through the village and it's used 24/7, 365 days a year. People even use it to commute to their jobs, and the elementary school kids walk there frequently. We might get a walk, bike, drive pathway from Lakeside Park to the boat launch, the beach, the museum, and the playing fields, and it will even be safe to go to the dog park. And you could actually start here at Whitney Hall and walk safely. That will attract even more visitors to spend their money in Enfield, which is the purpose of the whole thing. And I think you said, Kate, that at the hearing, it was said that the burden on the taxpayers for this would be $40,000 a year interest on the grant money that's given to us. So it isn't going to really cost $500,000. And that's all I have to say.
Question?
I would appreciate your vote. Thank you very much.
Next is Jason Carter.
Hello. My name is Jason Carter. I'm running for zoning board. On March 10th, you'll be voting on whether or not to adopt a major update to Enfield zoning ordinance. Whichever way the town decides to go, that decision should be upheld and applied equally to all property owners. The primary role of the zoning board is not to shape development policy, but to apply the zoning ordinance as written. To do this, the members must be familiar not only with the ordinance, but also with established case law. For example, when it comes to variances, as previously said, the applicant must meet 5 criteria, including demonstrating hardship. Determining what constitutes a valid hardship requires research into the law and attention to detail both about the case at hand and the context of the decisions previously made by the Supreme Court. I see the current zoning board as a whole doing their best to fulfill its responsibility. I see them citing the 5 criteria during a variance case and giving thoughtful consideration into whether a case satisfies those requirements. However, I do believe that additional research would be valuable for these discussions and would have a meaningful impact on the outcome of some votes. As a member of the public, I cannot have a two-way dialogue with the board members during their deliberation. I can only provide evidence before their discussion, even though I often find myself wishing I could provide additional information in response to their comments based on research I've done into a case. So today I'm asking for your vote so that I may engage in that dialogue and add my contribution to the team of volunteers working to operate the zoning board to the best of their ability. A majority of my professional career has been spent as a software engineer, both in product development and leadership. Over the past 3 years, I have focused mostly on designing and building my own house in Enfield, making sure the project complies with all zoning and building regulations to great success. The previous building inspector, Liam, if you guys knew him, he was pretty much a stickler. He expressed comfort in my work because, in his words, I quote, knew how to read. I have an affinity for detail and a strong interest in the law and a deep desire to see our laws applied equally to all Enfield property owners. Today, I'm asking for your vote so that I can serve with my fellow board members to maintain the integrity of the zoning rules that you vote for. So please vote for me for zoning board on March 10th. Thank you.
Any questions?
You said that you'd like to have more input. Do you feel that the zoning board is often too lenient or too strict with their terms?
Do you feel the zoning board is too strict or too lenient with their decisions?
So I can think of 2 cases, and I don't want to go into specifics because I don't want to start calling out cases. But I often find myself thinking that the way that a particular hardship is being applied to a case doesn't necessarily apply to that case. So, like, for example, one particular case I have in mind, it was allowed to pass through because of something called uniqueness, but I have a reason why I think that I could go into detail where I think that that particular hardship doesn't apply to that case in hand because it violated the spirit of the ordinance. So I think there's kind of some of those where I've researched a Supreme Court case, seen what the context was of that application, and it didn't match what I saw happening in the zoning board.
We have an online question? Yeah. Could you please tell us where you stand on various zoning changes which are up for a vote?
That's right. So that kind of ties back into what I started speech with. So zoning board they don't care about what the zoning, they don't set the policy. So it's not up to a zoning board member's job to kind of push their views. I personally do have views on it, and I will vote based on those, and I talked about those in the deliberative session. But as a candidate for ZBA, it's not something I'm going to get into.
Next is Kurt Gotthard.
Hello, my name is Kurt Gotthardts, and I'm a candidate for the Zoning Board of Adjustment, the ZBA position. I have lived in Enfield for the past 33 years, and for about 25 of those years, I've been a member of the Enfield Planning Board. I was a member of the ZBA in the past. During that time, I found my experience as a planning board member to be extremely helpful in understanding the town land use regulations. As a member of the ZBA, you are legally required to follow the state RSAs that pertain to granting a variance request. The role of the ZBA is to grant or deny a request from a property owner that wants to do something with their property that the current zoning regulations do not permit. If a variance is granted, this variance will run what they call, quote, run with the land, meaning the variance not only will benefit the current owner, but any and all future owners of that property. For this reason, a thoughtful and well-researched decision is critical. It should not be something that is taken lightly, and if I am elected, that is what I will do. Take it very seriously. As a current member of the planning board, when an application is presented to the board, I study the town regulations that are relevant to that application, see if there are any state laws or New Hampshire Supreme Court cases that might have a bearing on the application. After reviewing all of the information available, I am able to form a fair and legally defensible opinion regarding what is being proposed. Knowing the town regulations, the state laws, and being familiar with past New Hampshire Supreme Court cases is all information that is critical in order to make a fair and justifiable decision. If a ZBA board does not follow what is legally allowed or base its decisions on the facts, the town could find itself being sued by either the applicant or someone who has legal standing in the case. Basically someone that's the court says, yes, you can bring a lawsuit. Not everybody say is something that happens on your road and you're a butter, you have legal standing. Someone who lives on the other side of town does not have legal standing. It doesn't affect them directly. If I am elected, that is what I will do. Research the details of the application, and read the relevant documentation and try to understand as much about the request as possible, and then base my vote on the facts of the application as fairly and without prejudice as possible. And if you have any questions, thank you.
Are you leaving the planning board?
The question is Kurt leaving the planning board?
I'm currently serving as an alternate. So the state RSAs allow one member of a planning board to also serve as a ZBA member. There is also another RSAs that specifies that you can't vote on both applications. So it's, if someone comes, 99, probably 9.9% of the cases before a ZBA have nothing to do with the planning board. So it's only those rare occasions where you would have a dual application. And then I would have to choose which board I would sit as. As a full member of the ZBA, I would most likely vote there. As an alternate on the CBA, I would sit in the audience.
It's select board. The policy that we don't want people to serve on two land use boards. Okay, is that correct?
I was gonna actually ask, so as a select board member, I can tell you that it's not a written policy, but we've had the discussion and we did not feel comfortable having people on both boards. Would you be willing to give up your ZBA, your planning board alternates?
The select board has taken a position that you can't serve on both planning and zoning. Would you be willing to give up one of those positions?
Yes, as an alternate of the current alternate on the planning board, been there for a number of years. I enjoyed it, but I'd like to try something new.
Kurt, the DBA, allows variance, but when we saw height of building from 35 feet to 75 feet, is that set a precedent? And whether repercussions, possible repercussions from that? And the decision. Not you.
I'm gonna make it generic a little bit. If the ZBA allows a variance, does it set a precedence for other applicants? Does that work?
No, the New Hampshire Supreme Court is very clear that every case before the ZBA is unique. Because every property is unique, every application is unique. So there is no, for the ZBA, there is no precedent set from past cases of a decision, a town decision. Supreme Court cases, well, they set the precedent for every town, but not on the town level.
Maybe you have to, if you wanted that variance for yourself, you have to carefully draft the proposal. To mimic, to model after the one that's already had precedent, so that'd be something that could happen. Theoretically. You wouldn't go to.
I think I understand the question.
Because they don't have it, I should get. So that would be one.
I believe, if I understand the question correctly, as a individual applying for a variance, it's basically what your variance is, your own variance. It has nothing to do with came prior to that ZBA board. So say you have a lot of the ZBA applications, properties along the lake, because they're 3 acre zoning, 5 acre zoning, but they're only 1/4 acre or less lots. They want to put something either close to the shoreline or next to the property line, and it falls into a setback area. There's been multiple cases like that before the Enfield ZBA. They're all unique. Every property has a different criteria, different application, so they're all basically standalone.
Martha had a question.
Didn't you have one that didn't address?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Say
something and then we're trying to.
Okay. The last person speak is not here. Her name is Jane Rippey, I believe how you pronounce it. It's for supervisor of the checklist for 6 years. Won't be speaking. We're going to try to get Nancy Smith to do something electronically. But do we want to open it for questions first before we?
We'll just do the. I wanted to express thanks before we get further on. We're going to try something that we've technically not done, and it is really a trial to see if we can get a remote candidate who wants to speak. Nancy Smith is out of town, not available. But before we do that, because it may cause a lot of feedback that we'll all want to plug our ears and we'll have to cut her off. To do that, I wanted to express thanks to Bill as MC for running this meeting and within 3 minutes of planned time. So that was great. But also to the Mascoma Audio Visual Club, who's here and been providing advice in the fitness.
Turn on my video.
Their advisor, Seth Marat, Zachary Kenry, who's the vice president, I believe, and Carter Goodness. Oh, I'm supposed to say that they are also a nonprofit, and they do a lot of other publicity help with around the area, both in this district and beyond that. So thanks to all of them. Nancy's there. Are you?
Hello.
Just
Can you hear me?
give us 1 second.
Put it next to the microphone.
Yeah, that's nice. Gonna do this though, and then hit the mute button on that.
You guys are great. Thank you. You got me? Can you hear me? Okay. My name is Nancy Smith. I'm a current member of the Budget Committee, and I'd like another term. I've been in Enfield for 27 years, which is hard to believe, and I've been involved in town the whole time. I've enjoyed the Budget Committee, although my husband would laugh at me if he heard I was on a Budget Committee. And I don't know how to deal with this, except municipal budgeting is different than our checkbooks. And it's taken me a while, and I think it takes everyone a while to understand that and try to accommodate the uniqueness of municipal budgeting. I think that this town needs to concentrate on revenue rather than tax cutting. We really did a decent job of holding the line last year. And I think that we'll do that again this year. But we need to concentrate on trying to increase our revenue, because if you increase your revenue, the tax base gets spread even more. And I think that's what we need to do. And I hope that you will vote for me on March, whatever. I thank the guys for getting me plugged in. And if you've got any questions, let me know. If you can get to me. Thank you. I can't hear anything. Back to Bill.
Nancy, can you hear us?
Yeah.
What was the question? What are your ideas for increasing revenue?
Oh dear.
Did you hear the question, Nancy?
Well, I did.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
I can't see anybody or anything.
We're here. We didn't disappear.
Well, more development is part of it, and selling property is part of it. I think that Laramie Farms is probably a great opportunity for us. It's not in the middle of town. It's not going to be a great distraction to people. And I think it's probably going to help us with our tax base. I don't think we can handle too many Laramie farms, but I think it's a place to start. Not that I make a difference. Anything else?
I think we may have lost her.
Well, if she can't hear us, then nobody can hear us.
Oh yeah, she's like gone.
Are you able to hear us, Nancy, or anybody else online?
Now I can. Now I can.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to open it up to questions for any candidate from anybody. And my memory serves me, Tim, you had one for Mike.
You guys asked Mike about thoughts on proposed
Question is for Mike Dean, is his thoughts on the proposed zoning ordinance.
well, I was thinking, sure, go on.
Oh, we need to use the mic.
Go ahead.
And as you've seen, it takes a team to run tech. And thanks to Jason Carter as well, who's been running the Zoom part of this.
Think we're live.
I know, I'm just. When I was on ZBA, I didn't like to talk about things like this. I don't know whether we shouldn't or, but I didn't. I'm not on ZBA anymore, so I can say, yeah, I think all of those zoning changes that are being proposed are appropriate. They do a couple of things for us. One, they relieve some of the burden on the developers and the property owners. So a lot of the cases that come before the ZBA in the past 20 years have been in the category of, yeah, we wish we had thought of that when we wrote the original zoning ordinance. So there are a huge number of lots that are too small to do anything. Like the people can't make any improvements on their properties, nothing. So some of the changes are about that, about relieving that. So it takes some of the burden off of the ZBA and the developers and allows changes that we almost always would have allowed anyway. The other is that it encourages some of those changes encourage more growth in the community. And while I'm nervous about big projects like Laramie Farms, if somebody were to propose more of those, that I would be very uncomfortable with that. I was a little uncomfortable with the Laramie Farms project. I'm less uncomfortable about it now. So, boy, I don't look good when you're looking up at me. So I'm in favor of them. Let's just put it that way. And that's coming from somebody who has seen a lot of ZBA cases and has thought a lot about land use law in particular. I love Kurt's point about ZBA does not set policy. So ZBA, when I was on the committee, was when they started thinking about those zoning changes, and they came to me, they said, what do you think about these? And I asked the members of the board at the time, and we came up with the idea that it should be the community that proposes those changes, not the ZBA. What we could provide as input was, these are the kind of cases that we see happening a lot. You know, if you want to, you know, we see a lot of variances to add a deck on the lake. And we see that kind of a thing. So you can think about that. But we would not be in the position of saying, you should change the setbacks to do this. So that's all I got.
Anyone else? Any other questions for anyone? Guess we're all set then. Thank you for all coming out tonight on this snowy night. Good night.